What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome into the Bulls Report. And coming up on today's show, we're going to be discussing the possibility of sending Zach LaVine to the Orlando Magic as buzz is heating up. And then also PG-13 after another disappointing playoff loss for himself and Los Angeles Clippers. Could the Bulls be targeting him in NBA free agency? We'll get to all that and more on today's show. But first off, I got to make sure you guys are all subscribed here to the channel. We have over 6,500 subs so far gained on our Bulls Report channel. So first off, thank you guys so much. But hey, if you guys are new here and haven't hit that sub button already and want to stay up to date on the latest around your Chicago Bulls or just want another great Bulls YouTube channel to go to, hit that subscribe button and lock us in. What's up, guys? My name is Patrick Siepman, and let's talk about it. The Bulls and the Orlando Magic, could they be working out a trade to send Zach LaVine to Orlando? With the Magic losing in 7 to the Cleveland Cavaliers, there is a clear need for Orlando to have a true, three-level scorer at that guard spot. And we can start off with Paolo Banchero. He was fantastic in the playoffs for the Orlando Magic. The Magic Cavs game wasn't on national TV too much, so maybe a lot of people didn't really witness what Paolo did in that first round, but he was awesome. And he is a great, centerpiece for the Orlando Magic, and they got to be looking at his game. And what type of player would complement him oh so very well is a hyper-athletic three-level scoring guard, and that's exactly what Zach LaVine is. And he fills a need on that Orlando Magic roster. I like Jalen Suggs. I like Cole Anthony. They are really solid guards, but there is no doubt LaVine would be an immediate upgrade at that spot. If you could have LaVine, Banchero, and some of the size they have on that roster, I think that would be the next step in terms of Orlando, going from a team that loses in the first round in 7 games to the Cleveland Cavaliers to, potentially beating the Cavs in 5 or 6 if they had a guy like Zach LaVine. But when I was hopping in the NBA trade machine trying to find out how this trade would go down, it is so hard to match salaries with the Zach LaVine contract at $43 million. And with where the Magic are at right now, they don't really have a lot of big-time salaries. Even Banchero is only making $11 million a year on his rookie deal. So if a trade were to go down between the Bulls and the Magic, it would need to be a 3-teamer. But, in the NBA, teams have not shied away from performing 3-team deals. So, I do want to talk about a couple guys that the Bulls could be getting back in a Magic trade. Let's start off with the first guy up on screen right now, and that is Jonathan Isaac, the 7-foot forward from Florida State. And this guy, he is an athletic freak, man. Extremely versatile defender, can guard 2 through 5 at a very high level, really long wingspan, and his numbers don't blow you away by any means. But he only played 15.8 minutes per game last season. He was pretty efficient, I must say. His three-point jumper, just from a form perspective, has gotten a whole lot smoother. He doesn't really have that hitch he had, which he did have coming out of Florida State. So he got rid of that. And this may be an absolute ludicrous comparison, but if Jonathan Isaac wants to take that next step in the NBA and become a true, fundamental piece of a winning team, he needs to take that Michael Porter Jr. jump. I don't know if he could ever be the shooter that MPJ is, but if he can even be, 80% of that from a spot up perspective, he could be super effective. And, he is a true elite wing defender. He can guard multiple positions, just overall cause havoc. He's always leading the NBA in terms of deflection per 36. So I think Jonathan Isaac would be a great piece, but also another great piece that the Bulls could be trying to get is former Chicago Bull Wendell Carter. And it's so funny looking back on that Vooch Wendell Carter trade from a couple years ago, man. I would have taken Wendell straight up for Vooch. No doubt about it. And he had a great year for Orlando this past season. In only 25 minutes a game, him averaging 11 points a night, 6.8 rebounds a night, 1.7 assists. But the efficiency was great. He has that stretch 5 ability, shooting 37.4% from downtown this past season. And, I think Wendell, he is still not even close to his potential of who he could be as a player in the NBA. He's extremely versatile on defense as well. That was the one thing I actually noticed about in that Cleveland Cavaliers series is his ability to switch on the guards at a way higher level than I thought he could. And I think Orlando would be willing to ship him off because, it's not like he dominated in the NBA playoffs. In 26 minutes a night, we see the efficiency really take a hit, and that's always the case with these guys who have kind of like their first breakout year in the regular season is like, when they do get to that playoffs and it's a lot more physical, the refs swallow their whistle a little more. We've seen efficiency fall off a cliff for a ton of guys, and especially shooting big men. And we saw it with Wendell Carter. I mean, him now only shooting in the playoffs 28% compared to almost 37.5% in the regular season. Definitely took a hit, but hey, I'll tell you what, I would absolutely take both these guys on the Bulls. I would take Wendell Carter and Jonathan Isaac. Now, would they be willing to give both them up in a Zach LaVine trade? Probably not, but if they only include one, maybe the Bulls could get some draft capital as well. But if you could somehow swing both those guys, like I would be absolutely all in. I actually think the Magic are the one team that could be looking at Zach LaVine's contract and just him overall as a player and being like, we can afford his contract since they do have all these guys on, a lot of them are on rookie deals here. Like I don't think they would be as scared as other teams would be in taking on Zach LaVine's $44 million cap hit. But, I think there's been a lot of talk around, who would even be open to trading for Zach LaVine. I think the Magic are one of those teams. But, hey, you guys let me know what team is most likely to trade for Zach LaVine. I'll make this the pinned comment on today's video. So if YouTube throws an ad break your way, sit back, let it play, and let me know your thoughts on what team you think is most likely to trade for Zach LaVine this summer. For me, it's the Spurs or the Magic. For all the reasons I just listed for Orlando, them not really having, too many massive contracts right now, and them just having a real dire need to get a 3-level hyper-athletic scorer at that guard spot, but also the San Antonio Spurs. I'm kind of going to make this comparison of a rookie quarterback deal in the NFL to having Wemby on that rookie deal. Like, I could see the Spurs going all in on, like, the next 2 to 3 years when Wemby's cap hit is as low as it is, and then maybe they take a chance on a guy like Zach LaVine. So keep your eyes out for both those teams if the Bulls do end up, obviously trading LaVine here this summer. Now we got more around Paul George coming up for you guys here in a second, but I got to tell you guys about today's sponsor, Prize Picks first. And if you guys head to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use promo code CLNS when you're making your first deposit, we're going to match it all the way up to $100. Now, NBA playoff basketball is here, and it is absolutely must-watch TV every single night. But if you guys want to add more juice to the NBA playoffs, creating a Prize Picks lineup is the best way to do so. Knicks Pacers are tonight. Same with Timberwolves Nuggets, 2 must-watch games in my opinion. And if you guys want to add more juice to those 2 ball games, make a Prize Picks lineup. I've been riding the more on Anthony Edwards points for it feels like the past 2 weeks now, and I suggest you guys do the same. So, hey, create a Prize Picks lineup of 2 to 6 players. Choose more than or less than on some stat projections. You guys can start seeing some serious cash roll in today. So head to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use promo code CLNS, and we're going to match your first deposit all the way up to $100. Prize Picks, my favorite app I have on my phone. Trust me, if you guys download it and give them a chance, you guys will agree with that as well. But I do want to talk about Paul George to close out today's show. So we got some lighting going on at the top. But here the Bulls signed Paul George after another playoff collapse from the Los Angeles Clippers, as I think it's probably time in LA for them just to blow it up. Like, I don't expect them to completely run back the same roster, and maybe Paul George is a guy that hits free agency. Now, he does have a player option of $48.8 million. So that is a whole lot of money for PG-13 to walk away from, but maybe he just wants something different. He wants to get out of Los Angeles, even though that is his hometown. I still think it's more likely than not that he, opts into that player option than instead of opting out. But in terms of Paul George, as, his production this past year in the playoffs against the Dallas Mavericks, man, I mean, it's kind of more of the same. Like, this whole notion, and I think it honestly stems from, Paul George having some of the most smooth and silky highlights out there. You see his clips on Instagram, Twitter all the time, and he is just, he passes the eye test of a top 10 basketball player in the world, but yet again, in the playoffs, he struggled in 37 minutes a game. As the number one option with no Paul George in the lineup, he struggled. 19.5 points a night, 6.8 rebounds, 4.8 assists, and only shooting 41% from the deck. And that's why I would be wary of Paul George signing with the Chicago Bulls, mainly because of this question. Does he move the needle? Like, let's just say the Bulls. They keep, Ayo Dosunmu, Kobe White. Maybe they bring back Patrick Williams, but, like, you told me a 5-man lineup of Kobe White, Ayo, Paul George, P-Dub, and Vooch at that center spot, like, is that really moving the needle? Like, yeah, the Bulls would probably be in the playoffs this season, but you're still probably getting packed up by Boston in 4 or 5 games in the first round. And plus, he's getting older. I would rather have the Bulls go the direction of building around this young core like Kobe White and Ayo DeSumo, and maybe getting draft picks for guys like, LaVine, if you can somehow move off him, Vooch, if you could somehow move off him, and get more young 3-and-D players to put around these two guys. I mean, these guys, I am so excited. Even though the Bulls' future does look really bleak right now, but having the more offensive-minded guard and 6'5" Kobe White and the defensive-minded guard and 6'4" Ayo DeSumo, like, they have an elite backcourt for the future, and they really just came onto the scene last season. I just can't wait to see what these two are going to do with another offseason under their belt. But it gets me to this. The Bulls need to fully reset, and that's another reason why I don't want the Bulls to kind of just put a Band-Aid over a open wound in signing a guy like Paul George, because has he really performed in the playoffs? Has he really, besides that one run he had with the Clippers, I'm kind of wary on who, Paul George truly is in the playoff atmosphere because of, the past experience we have seen. And, the Bulls need to just build through the draft. There's no doubt about it. You're looking at these teams who have really made these deep playoff runs, like the Nuggets are through the draft, the Timberwolves are through the draft. Even though they made that, massive Rudy Gobert trade, you look at the roster, they drafted Jaden McDaniels, drafted Cat, drafted Anthony Edwards. Most of these teams that we're seeing right now are all built through the draft. I want to see Chicago take that similar route and don't just, make a move that doesn't necessarily move the needle too much in signing a guy like Paul George. Even though it would capture headlines, and I would probably be very excited about PG-13 heading to Chicago, I would just be very, very wary of that move. But speak about moves, what would be your first move as the Bulls GM this summer? I'll make this point. You can't say trade Zach LaVine. Give me another one besides that, because I think 99% of Bulls fans would probably have that answer. But hey, you guys let me know. What would your first move be as the Bulls GM? And as always, guys, make sure you guys are subscribed here to the channel. If we get any more updates around trading LaVine, maybe even potentially trading a guy like Vooch or anything around free agency and the NBA draft, we'll have a video for you guys ASAP. So hit that sub button, lock us in, and we'll see you guys next time. Go Bulls.